The movie starts with a family named Bol, Rial, and their daughter Nyagak, escaping the dangers in their home country, South Sudan. They manage to get on a tiny, crowded boat that is going to Britain. Unfortunately, the boat flips over, and everyone on it ends up in the water. The film jumps forward to Bol and Rial in a detention center, but Nyagak is missing. They are called in by some government officials who inform them that they have good news. A whole two-story house has been set aside just for them, and they won't have to share it with anyone else. The officials explain that since their citizenship application is still being processed, Bol and Rial can't work and must live in the house they've been given. They also mention that if they get along well with the local British people and follow the rules, they will probably be granted citizenship. Bol and Rial are taken to their new home, where they're greeted by a social worker named Mark, who also hands them some food. The house is run down, but Mark reassures them it's all theirs, joking that it's even bigger than his place. He seems fond of the couple and reminds them that by behaving and proving they're among the good ones, they can build a new life in Britain. Bol embraces the fresh start with optimism, while Rial stays quiet and reserved. Later, Rial makes a necklace using beads from one of Nyagak's dolls. That night before going to sleep, Bol hears strange voices and thumping coming from inside the walls. When he checks an exposed part of the wall, he thinks he sees a ghost. Suddenly, a bird flies out, startling him. Bol dismisses the eerie experience, blaming it on the bird. The next morning, Bol and Rial take a look at their rundown neighborhood. When Bol goes to throw out the trash, a neighbor gives him a cold glare. Later, Bol heads out for a haircut, and we find out that Bol doesn't even know what part of Britain they are in. On his way back, some locals invite him to their church to watch a soccer game. Bol joins in, learning the British soccer chants and cheering for the home team. When he returns, Rial is unimpressed with his attempts to fit in. That night, Bol hears more noises coming from behind the walls. Curious, he heads downstairs and notices a section of wallpaper peeling away. Revealing a large hole inside, he finds a strand of seaweed. As he pulls it out, a ghostly figure shows up behind him. At the end of the seaweed is Nyagak's doll, but suddenly, a corpse bursts from the wall to grab the doll. Bol shuts his eyes, and when he opens them, everything is back to normal. Shaken, he spends the rest of the night obsessively scraping wallpaper off every wall in the house. When Rial wakes up, Bol is not there, and the house is covered in torn wallpaper. As she starts cleaning up, she has a vision of their escape from South Sudan. Disturbed, she leaves for a nearby clinic but quickly becomes disoriented. The streets seem to shift, trapping her. Fearful of her neighbors, she grows more lost. Desperate, she approaches a group of black teenagers for help. While they show her the way, they mock her accent and cruelly tell her to go back to Africa. At the clinic, Rial gets a clean bill of health. She tells the nurse that the raised tattoos on her and Bol's bodies mark their tribal affiliations. During the war, Rial had tattoos from both warring tribes to avoid being attacked by either side. But this also left her feeling like she never truly belonged anywhere. When the nurse asks about Nyagak, Rial quietly explains that they lost her during their journey to Britain. Rial buys groceries and heads back home. As she enters, she hears a whisper from the walls telling her to come. She watches in shock as a peach rolls across the floor, seemingly responding to the voice, and falls into the hole in the wall. Soon, multiple voices begin speaking to her. When Bol arrives home, he says sorry for being away. He notices that Rial has prepared a traditional meal and laid it out on a rug, just like they used to do in Africa. However, Bol insists they use silverware instead of their hands, which is how they normally eat, and he says they should sit at the table to fit in better. He also wants them to speak in English. Rial shares a folktale about a man who wanted a house so badly that he stole from others to get it. In the end, the man and his house were cursed and fell apart. She then tells Bol that she has seen ghosts in their home. Bol says he hasn't seen any ghosts. Rial calls him a liar and insists they need to make things right to lift the curse. That night, Bol hears the voices again and begins carving open the walls. As he works, African music and voices fill the air, and he sees multiple ghosts around the house. Suddenly, Nyagak, wearing a tribal mask, attacks him, terrified. He runs out of the house. When he returns, he insists they are cursed by something they brought with them from their homeland. Bol gathers all the clothes and items they brought from Africa and sets them on fire. When he sees the necklace Rial made from Nyagak's beads, he rips it off her neck. Rial pleads with him not to destroy her connection to her home, but Bol throws the necklace into the flames anyway. Bol heads to the mall, where mall security keeps a close eye on him the entire time. He picks out some Western-style clothes. Once he gets back home, he starts fixing all the wiring in the house, but he accidentally hurts his hand while doing it. Now the walls are filled with gaping holes. After he's done, he sees Rial talking to someone who isn't there. She's talking about going back to South Sudan. Bol, feeling frustrated, sets the dinner table and tells Rial that she needs to fit in with the British community. Rial replies that the spirits have promised her that if she does what they want, she'll be reunited with Nyagak, and she warns Bol that she should be scared of him. Bol angrily eats his dinner with silverware when he suddenly realizes he's trapped in a vision. He finds himself alone at sea, surrounded by watery corpses rising from the water and approaching him. The vision fades, but the ghosts continue to attack. They vanish whenever he turns on the lights, and he frantically struggles to light up the entire house. The ghosts scream that they can't breathe, and Nyagak's voice cries out that she can't swim. Once all the lights are on, Bol sees the ghosts crawling inside the walls. In a panic, he smashes more holes in the walls and screams at them to leave. Bol goes to see Mark, asking for new housing. Mark is doubtful, pointing out that their house is even bigger than his. Noticing Bol's wounded hand and disheveled state, Mark says they'll need to conduct an investigation. They head to Bol's house and see all the holes in the walls. Bol explains it's due to vermin. Mark believes him, but warns that things need to improve or there will be consequences. Just then, Rial steps out of the bedroom wearing the Sudanese clothes and necklace that Bol had burned. She tells Mark that their home is being destroyed by ghosts and a witch. Mark, unconvinced, says he'll report them to his supervisors, hinting that they'll likely be sent back to South Sudan. After Mark leaves, Bol and Rial argue over where they truly belong. As Bol steps outside for air, his neighbor tells him to leave the house, claiming they'll be sent back to Africa no matter what. Bol refuses to leave his new home and takes drastic action, knocking off all the door and window handles so that neither he nor Rial can escape. He lights a candle and calls out to the ghosts, asking them to speak with him. Soon a ghostly figure, a witch calling itself the Butcher, appears. The witch promises to reunite Nyagak with Rial, but only if Bol sacrifices himself to repay his debts. Bol refuses, realizing the witch cannot physically harm him. However, the witch torments him with painful visions of Nyagak's ghost, her lifeless body floating in the sea. Meanwhile, Rial manages to reattach a window handle and crawls out of the house. She finds herself trapped in a vision, where she's back in South Sudan, joyfully reuniting with her friends in an emotional moment. However, her happiness fades when the witch appears. The witch forces Rial to confront the truth of her past, something she had long repressed, making her relive the painful memories she tried to forget. We learn that Rial and Bol survived a brutal attack by one of the warring tribes, which left most of their friends and family dead. Along with other refugees, they try to board a bus to escape the war zone. However, they are denied entry, as the workers are prioritizing families with children. Rial and Bol, having no children of their own, are turned away. In a desperate move, Bol spots Nyagak in the crowd, grabs her, and claims she's their child. The workers, seeing this, let them onto the bus just before it departs. Nyagak's real mother spots her on the bus and desperately chases after it, crying for her daughter. But the bus doesn't stop, and the mother is left behind. Rial promises to protect their new daughter. The trio eventually boards a boat heading to Britain, but it capsizes and everyone begins to drown. A rescue raft arrives and Bol, one of the few who can swim, grabs Rial and pulls her to safety. Sadly, Nyagak and many others drown. The ghosts that haunt them are the spirits of those who died, so that Rial and Bol could survive, including Nyagak. The witch then reveals that if Rial delivers Bol to him, he will reunite her with Nyagak. Rial returns to the apartment where Bol waiting. She reaches for the kitchen knife, struggling with the thought of killing him but unable to bring herself to do it. Just then, Bol grabs the knife and wounds himself, ready to sacrifice his life to atone for his sins and bring Nyagak back. He confesses all his wrongdoings. As Rial turns to leave the room, the floor suddenly cracks open, and the witch crawls out from the ground. The witch begins consuming Bol, and as he is devoured, Nyagak appears and holds Rial's hand. Hearing Bol's death, Rial has a realization. Her true home is with him. She tells her lost friends in Nyagak that she must return home. With newfound determination, Rial grabs the knife and slays the witch, saving Bol in the process. Time passes, and Mark and his supervisors arrive for another inspection. They find the house in better shape, with all the holes patched and the space decorated, though sparsely. Despite their annoyance, it seems they will allow Rial and Bol to stay. After the inspection, Mark privately asks Rial what happened. She tells him she killed the witch. As for the ghosts, she explains that they are still with them and always will be, as they are part of who they are. Rial and Bol agree that they will live with the ghosts, but they will also build a new life together. The film closes with the couple sitting peacefully with the ghosts of their past.